All right, we're live. Hey, everybody, Mark Kepp with campgroundviews.com. And today I have a special guest in Joel Holland. Thank you for joining me, Joel.
Yeah, Mark, it's always a pleasure.
So, Joel, you'll see all the banners behind him. Joel is Harvest Host. So, Joel, you are Harvest Host, but you didn't create Harvest Host. You purchased it several years ago, and then you've turned it into what it has become today. So, can you give everybody a brief rundown on that journey and where you're at now?
Totally. Yeah, no, so I started as an RVer. So my wife and I were living in the Washington, D.C. area, kind of burned out on city life. We jumped into RVing, fell in love with it, and ended up over the course of 2 years RVing through all the lower 48 states, and loving it more at the end than when we started. And so I basically said, hey, the next business I run, I want it to be in the RV world. It's just so fun. And in one of the businesses that I had really, had my eye on was Harvest Hosts, because it provided a unique experience, just like going to a NASCAR race or a Formula One race and staying in the infield. This was just a different type of supplement, to normal RVing, and I loved it. And so I reached out to the owners, said, love what you've built. Would you be interested in selling this so we can try to scale this to more RVers? And like you said, it'll be 4 years in May. And it's been a wonderful, it's been a wonderful experience.
And so when taking us from that beginning till now, I mean, roughly how many members did Harvest Host have then versus what they have now?
Yes. So tremendous growth. So at the time there were 6,000 members. Today we have over 220,000. And so a lot of growth. And what's really cool is, so we do a lot of surveying. You've probably seen our data that comes out usually a couple times a year, discussing trends and how, this year people are RV more than last year, et cetera. None of that's surprising. The data that I was really excited about and not surprised by, because I always kind of knew this was going to be the answer. We found that Harvest Host members, after joining Harvest Hosts, use their RVs 20% more days per year than before Harvest Hosts. And by the way, that's not all at Harvest Host locations. Mm-hmm. About half that's at Harvest Hosts and the other half is at campgrounds, because the way people use Harvest Hosts, it's the way that I use it, where I go to a campground, day one, fill up, get the water, electricity, et cetera. Day two, go to a host. Day three, go back to a campground, dump the tanks, fill up. And so it makes me really happy to know that we're growing the pie for the RV community. People are RVing more, and that translates into more campground nights. In addition to obviously supporting all these great small businesses that our members visit.
Yeah, and we're here live within the Facebook group for RV park and campground owners. And I'm always interested to get feedback from the owners on what they think of the potentials. And there's conversations about Hip Camp, Harvest Host, Boondockers Welcome, which is now owned by Harvest Host. And those potential negative impacts that those entities have. Because, right, it's a free camping spot versus paying for a campground. And so, as you know, and we've had conversations on this in the past, I view Harvest Host as a better alternative to Walmart or the roadside truck stop, right?
Because we say wineries over Walmarts.
Yeah. Wineries over Walmart. That's a good line. Wineries over Walmarts. And what I like about Harvest Host as an alternative to wineries is the basic rules you've put in place for the stays that are there. And one of the leading ones is when you stay there, you're encouraged to purchase whatever that venue is providing. So instead of it being a free campsite at Walmart, it's actually a little bit of a paid spot. You're actually creating a value to that campsite. So can you talk through that a little bit deeper for owners who may be skeptical on viewing Harvest Host as a potential competitor to their business?
Totally. I mean, first, I would say I completely understand the concern, right? And I knew this was, if you don't know anything about Harvest Hosts, at first blush, it looks like it could be a competitor. But what's nice is, and I think I've made it clear over the years, I don't consider campgrounds competition whatsoever. We genuinely consider Walmart parking lots, Cracker Barrel parking lots, rest stops, like those are the competition. I don't think anyone should ever stay, boondock in a Walmart parking lot when you can choose to go to a small business or a brewery or distillery, support the business, and have a much more wonderful stay. Now, the big reason that we're not competition for campgrounds is that we don't provide hookups, right? So there's a couple of things at play. One, it's a 24-hour stay. So you're just pulling in, supporting the business, leaving the next day. 2, there are no hookups, right? So there are no amenities at all. And so, as we all know, as RVers, you need electricity and water and bathrooms and all the facilities. You can get away with it for a day, without it, which is perfectly fine. But our members are on average 55 and older. Like 80% of them are 55 and older, 60% retired. These aren't your typical, like, let's put a bunch of solar on and go spend, weeks and weeks out in the desert off the grid. Like, that's just not who our member is. Our members love campgrounds, and then they love to throw in a winery every once in a while to change it up. So this is why, I stay at tons of campgrounds, and and my rig's wrapped. And so it's always a conversation piece. I always talk to the owners about it. More often than not, the owners are RVers, which means they're Harvest Host members, right? Like most are. And so they're like, oh, we love the program. It's not competition. But even for those who aren't, what they uniformly say is, once a Harvest Host location came near us, our business boomed, because we have, again, 220,000 members. When we have a Harvest Host location near a campground, that campground is going to get more business before and after they go to that location. That's just plain simple math. It happens every time. So I've never had a campground near a Harvest Host location complain, because they crush it. So that's the word I try to get out. If you're concerned, I'm guessing you're not near one of our locations, because it's going to be a boon to business.
So talking about that, so we got 220,000 members. How many Harvest Host locations do you currently have?
We have just over 3,000.
So 3,000 on average. Is it one site, 2 sites per location?
Yeah, I think 2 is the average.
2.
Right.
So at the most 6,000 sites for 220,000 members. I mean, as you see this thing growing, where does it grow? How do you maintain that? And I think this question is leading into the community you've created around this and how that impacts the industry as a whole.
Totally. So the thing I focus most on is growing our locations, because when we've seen this everywhere, that there are more RVers right now than there are places to stay. And I think if RVers have too many challenges getting a place to stay, they're going to get upset and unfortunately maybe leave the lifestyle. And we're starting to see that people are just like saying, good riddance. This is too much. So I'm hoping that our alternative sites that we're starting to add to inventory are helping. And we hear anecdotes all the time, like, as Memorial Day weekend, we could not find a campground to save our lives. Luckily, we were able to pull into a Harvest Host spot for the night, right? That happens all the time. So it didn't take a spot away. It just gave someone a spot to stay. And hopefully they'll now stick around RVing longer. But our focus is on growing locations. And there's a lot of unique, of course, when you think of Harvest Host, think wineries, breweries, distilleries, golf courses, museums. There's interesting categories like churches. Like, we've added 100 churches in the last 6 months. And it works really well for churches. We give our members the opportunity to donate through the website. It's not compulsory, but it's kind of code of conduct. And churches make an extra $12,000 in tithe or donations a year from members by utilizing a parking lot which wasn't used during the week.
Interesting.
And so there's a lot of really, I think, interesting places still for people to stay while supporting businesses. But to your point, it isn't free camping, right? We've never said that. In fact, if you go to our website, I don't think you can find the word free anywhere on it. We went through years ago and cleansed that word, because it drove the incorrect concept. I don't want freeloaders on Harvest Hosts. I want people on Harvest Hosts that are going to go support the small businesses. And if they're not staying at a campground, I want them to take that money they save and spend it with the small businesses so that they thrive. Oh, there you are.
I'm back. My lovely, I'm on a fiber internet connection, but for some reason, when I do a live stream, it says, nah, you're on a dial up. We're going to do horrible. So I just turned on my Wi-Fi. We should be good to go now. Sorry about that. We cut out there. So that really provides some good depth into what Harvest Hosts is. Because of the breadth of your membership, and because it's a nationwide thing. Let's dive into who the audience is and who campers are and what we can potentially expect this year and looking out in the future. As everybody well knows, we just had this massive increase in the number of campers and RVers over the last 2 years as a result of COVID. There's still record sales of RVs. And I imagine a lot of those folks are starting to join Harvest Hosts and obviously staying at campgrounds. So you have a good pulse on this audience. In general, can you share with the RV park owners what you're seeing, hearing, and what those folks are thinking?
Yes, I mean, I think the headline, you nailed it. There's going to be more RVers this year than last year, and last year was a banner year. So that's what's wild. One of the stats that paints that picture pretty well, the RV Industry Association of America, RVIA, they do this survey every year to find out how many Americans plan to RV. Last year, it was 61 million, and that was up a lot from like the 50s. This year, they are anticipating 72 million Americans are going to RV. That's insane. I mean, that's a lot of people. So I have some concerns over overcrowding. I mean, again, it's like, I mean, look, I live in Vail, Colorado, a big skier. Vail sold twice as many passes last year, and guess what? It's overcrowded. Our government printed a bunch of money. Guess what? We're having inflation. Like sometimes these dynamics, they play out exactly like you expect. So this year, we're going to have more RVers on the road, and there's going to be crowding issues. And so I hope it's still a big country and there's still plenty of great places to go. So what I tell RVers is like, be more unique in your travels. Like, don't just stay on major highways, like go to these cool little towns that are off the beaten path. That's kind of the point of RVing. Because there's still plenty of campgrounds. And I'm sure you have many, that you've been to where even at the most insane times for some, there are plenty that have space. We just have to be more creative in picking our travel plans.
Yeah, we just launched our 800th campground virtual tour, and I was preparing a video yesterday kind of highlighting that one. And it's in a beautiful spot, but it's an unknown campground. People aren't aware of its existence. And so I pulled up the date. I think it was like June 15th. And it's a Forest Service campground. And there were sites available. Like half the park was empty. Right now, where if you turn on media, you see everything's full, everything's booked up. And the problem is, to your point, that a lot of the new RVers, and this is a good like learning exercise for park operators. A lot of new RVers don't know what they don't know. So that means if they want to go camping, they've heard of Yellowstone, they've heard of Yosemite, they've heard of Glacier, and they know about them. So they're tempted to go there. It behooves us as an industry to start pointing out, hey, there's some other really amazing spots that aren't those destinations that you can also go to. And that's where, we're a partner with Harvest Hosts at campgroundviews.com because there's a really good tie in there. And I've always been a fan of what you do, again, to the point that I'm not a fan of Walmarts. I'm not a fan of Cracker Barrel. Some people are. I'm not saying anything negative at it. Yeah. Just I'm not a fan of it. And Harvest Host is a very solid alternative to that. What ways would you advise park owners to reach potential guests that may not know about their area, invite them in?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. Well, it's funny. I was actually thinking that when you were talking about this beautiful park that was at half capacity, I would pay money to see this list of hidden gems. Like, that's a great product idea. It's basically like Hidden Parks of America. So I think
new business starting right here.
It's great business. I would literally pay money to go to a park that has half capacity. That's amazing. I guess there's a lot of ways to get the word out. Our village, sites like that, where you want to get your message to where the RVers exist. And Harvest Host is increasingly becoming a place where they exist. And I do, and we've talked about this in the past, I want to put together a campground program where we're basically promoting campgrounds. And we just haven't had time with development yet. But when someone's looking at a Harvest Host location, I'd like to show campgrounds on the bottom. Like, here's some campgrounds near you, because we know you need to fill up ahead of time or after. So that's still something that we want to do. So eventually, hopefully we can be the ones to help promote these campgrounds. In the meantime, there's programs like Passport America, which I think is kind of, I don't use Passport America, but from what I understand, it's essentially helping parks that have capacity fill their capacity. So there's a lot of programs like that I might look into.
Right. And so this leads to the next question. One of the things we did over at Campground Views is we surveyed consumers. And we were looking, there's been a lot of negative headlines in the news. And so we were testing who they are. Are they planning on camping more or less this year? More. They're planning on camping more. They're planning on traveling a little bit more. But then we tested the negative stuff, Ukraine, whatever, right? All the crazy stuff you see in the news. The only thing that they said would negatively impact their travels was fuel price. That was the only thing. And then they said they would travel less, they would stay at cheaper spots, whatever. Have you tested that on your end? Do you have any data points related to that? And is there a number that you're watching there?
So it's interesting because I was and am worried about fuel prices. We surveyed our members and we asked them, in a lot of places, fuel is twice as much now as it was like a year ago. That's a huge jump. Has that impacted your travels? I was surprised by how few said yes. Basically, it was it was less than 10% said that they had any changes based on that. Now, part of that could be that our audience is a more affluent group. And so the fuel price is like the least of their concerns when they're driving a, $500,000 million rig. And then the other part of it is like, consider the alternatives. Alternative is airplanes are super expensive right now. Like I can't fly from Denver back to DC for less than like $800. That's crazy. Wow. Economy. So I think that the alternatives are worse. And so I think that helps. Now, if like airline travel got super cheap all of a sudden, but it can't because fuel prices impact airlines more than they impact us. So I think as long as these things move in tandem, RVing remains the best alternative to having control, flexibility, even if gas prices are a little higher. Now, it may end up impacting that, people may do more backyard travel. And we saw a lot of that with COVID anyway, where instead of doing cross-country trips, they were really exploring their backyard. And that's cool, right? Because I like to say, there's a great campground within probably 50 miles of no matter where you live. There's probably also a Harvest Host location, a state park, and something cool to do. So it's good that people are exploring local.
Yeah, as long as they're using the equipment. And you noted, you briefly passed on it earlier, the comment about people saying, I give up on the industry. That's always the big worry, right? We had this massive jump in the number of users. If we didn't serve them properly, they're just going to sell the rig and go do something else when those other options open up. In general, though, are you seeing a lot of that? Because we're not. We're seeing the people that have bought here recently are loving it and enjoying it. Are you seeing that same trend?
Yeah, people love it. I think it's you touched on it perfectly. The media likes to spread doom and gloom because that's what sells newspapers. And so all these negative headlines that I see, you got to kind of write them off without a little more diligence because it's not that bad. We've never stopped RVing throughout the whole pandemic. And as it's grown, I've had no problems getting spots. If I'm going to a hyper popular spot, maybe I have to try a little earlier to make sure I have my reservation set. But no, I don't. I think the doom and gloom is overblown, and people love RVing because it's a lot of fun, and I don't see that changing.
Yeah. So where is Harvest Host going from here? What can we expect in the near to distant future? What's your vision for it?
Totally. So our first cultural value, and we have a few of them. Number one is we win when the community wins. And for us, the community includes the whole RV industry, right? So it's campgrounds, it's our members, it's our hosts. And that's kind of how we make decisions. And so my goal with Harvest Host is that we keep growing, but not for profit's sake, right? I mean, we have a very inexpensive product and we have quite a large team. So it's not for profit's sake that I want to grow. It's that I'd like the whole industry to always be like, yeah, this program Harvest Host was great for RVing. It got more people into it because they were like, hey, cool, I can go stay at a winery. That sounds interesting. Maybe it got more people to stay active and engaged because they were getting bored with the normal and now they can go to an axe throwing brewery. So that's a legacy I want to leave. I want Harvest Host to have ended up growing the RV industry and leaving positive ripples.
Yeah, that's what I say too. Right? Not Harvest Host, but let's see this industry grow. If we can allow campers to find the perfect campground at the best time in the proper equipment, that's what creates this amazing experience for people. They're going to do it more often. They're going to share that and it grows. And that's that floats all boats. So, hey, owners, if you got a question for Joel, now's your chance. I'm not seeing anything on here other than Meg saying people who boondock are not her customers anyway. So know your customers know your competition. If you have questions in the future, feel free to post them down below in the comment section. I'll make sure to get them over to Joel. Harvest Hosts, first off, Joel, congratulations on your success with Harvest Hosts. You took it from just a small group into what you've built it into, which is very impressive. And there was some news here. I think in the last year, you raised some significant investment money. And then there was also the acquisition, right, of Boondockers Welcome. What's the vision there? How does that play into Harvest Hosts? And, kind of fill in the blanks there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So Boondockers Welcome is a really special program. It's similar in some ways. It's boondocking on private property. It's people's homes instead of businesses. And so that's the big difference, is it really is community driven versus supporting small businesses. But what we found was that there was a large overlap in our customer bases anyway. Tons of members were asking to do both. And I really liked the founders that were running it. They were just wonderful. So we ultimately, we bought Boondockers Welcome last year. We've integrated them. We're not changing the spirit of the program because it's wonderful as it is. Like I've gone and visited, a wonderful couple locally here, and what they want is someone to talk to. Like they want to like talk and hear the stories of the RV life and all that. And you stay free. We stayed for a night on their property. So I want to keep growing that program as well. And it fits a slightly different type of traveler, still a boondocker, obviously, Boondockers Welcome, but more community driven, that they really want to sit and like have a chat and get to know people.
If people want to meet you in person, are you doing any in-person events this next year? What's your travel plans in general? And don't tell us we're going to be on a particular night, but what are you generally planning for this next year?
Totally. So I love going to RV events. As a company, we're trying to be involved with as many as possible this year. So we have a calendar, and like every weekend, we're either physically at a location, at an event, or more likely sponsoring it somehow. So we love sponsoring events. I'd be at more of them, but we have a 14-month-old daughter. So that kind of changed our ability to travel like spontaneously, but we're taking her with us in end of March, going on like, month or more, tour. We're going to go to Georgia. We're going to go to the Masters. So that'll be the first, I've never boondocked, well, it's not boondocking. I'm at a campground, but I've never done the Masters. The big event that I plan to be at this year, both as a company and personally, is the Albuquerque Hot Air Balloon Festival in October. Okay. And we're doing a big sponsorship. I think we're like taking over a parking lot. We'll be there at the Harvest Host rig for a week. So that's a really fun event. It's quickly becoming like the RVers like event. Anybody who can make the Albuquerque, it'd be cool to see in person.
Cool. Thank you, Joel. Nobody's asked any questions. Chuck gave you a thumbs up on the comment about improving the industry. So Joel, I won't take any more of your time. I do appreciate your time. I appreciate you jumping on here. If anybody has questions for them, feel free to filter them through me. I'll make sure they get to Joel or his team and address them. And by all means, look for that big wrapped RV out on the roads this summer and swing by and say hello. As you can see, Joel's a cool guy, very nice guy to know, and a huge asset to our industry. So thank you for your time today, Joel.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I appreciate it. And congrats on everything you're doing too. It's awesome.
Thank you.